Welcome, residents of Dr. DC Podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
This is a very special episode.
A very special episode.
Yeah. We're talking about chumming.
I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
This is our Valentine's Day special episode. Our Golden Age subscribers on Patreon got the chance to vote for which sort of power couple we would talk about for Valentine's Day.
Surprisingly, wasn't the two of us.
Yeah. Well, I should have put that option in there next year. And the overwhelming response...
I'm a power bottom.
The overwhelming response was for Arthur and Mera.
Yeah.
So...
Mera.
I was somewhere else the other day, and someone said something that sounded like Mera, and I did that. Like, it was completely unrelated, had nothing to do with comics. I was just like, Mera, because of you.
Well, that's what I bring to the table.
Because of you.
I stay too far from the sidewalk.
So for this special Valentine's Day episode, oh, by the way, condolences that you're listening to this instead of enjoying Valentine's Day.
But also, if you're married, I mean, I get it because it's just like yammer.
So this is Richard's last Valentine's Day.
Yeah, this is the way that we cut out some of that noise from the outside, if you know what I mean.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, why don't I find an issue of like a very romantic issue of Arthur and Mera together? And then I thought,
I can't find one of those.
No, and then I thought it would be more fun if I took an issue that purports to be the most romantic Arthur and Mera issue and it barely constitutes as romance.
Hey, taking issue is probably a great way to theme this episode.
Yeah. So what I gave Richard to read that I think is very, very fun is...
Well, was it fun for you?
It's fun in general.
Well, I'm glad it was fun for one of us.
Aquaman 18 from like 1966 or something. It's the issue where Arthur and Mera get married. Yeah. And they do get married, but the issue is basically not about that.
The good thing it was good thing it was issue 18, just legal.
Oh no.
That's why the marriage happened.
Oh no.
Yeah, fuck this comic.
Okay, keep in mind, we don't do too many reading assignments from this era. We've done some reading assignments from like early days, and we do a lot of sort of modern or kind of 80s onward sort of things. We don't do a lot of Silver Age stuff.
I would think that...
So I've given you maybe the silliest Silver Age character and an issue that treats this very sillily.
I think it treats it very problematic-y.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the 60s. What do you expect?
Jesus Christ. I mean, we've read older books that have had less issues with me with this.
I mean, that's fair. I will not defend this book and say it's not problematic. But I also think it's hilarious.
It's
hilarious in how poorly it's aged. It's both in terms of canon and how problematic
But also, even during the time, it was so badly written.
It is exceptionally poorly written.
It's so unbelievably not faithful to like character development or anything. It just makes decisions randomly for the purpose of just finishing the book.
That is absolutely true. You will not get an argument from me. I still just enjoyed this though. So
I was so mad reading this book.
Okay, well that wasn't my intent. I was hoping you could at least laugh at how bad it was, but
no, I think
it just made you angry.
It just made me so mad.
Okay.
Because I'm like, we've come so far.
Well, that is true. I mean, nothing illustrates that better than this issue.
Yeah.
So, why don't we go through it? Aquaman 18.
Approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Which, tells you all you need to know about what they cared about.
100%. Yeah. Not a single swear happened.
Oh, there's no swears and there's no violence, but there's also a whole lot of women as property.
I will say, despite having like huge issues with the printing job, I think that the artwork itself was wonderful.
Artwork's pretty good in this one.
Yeah, I want to know. I'd be curious to know what the like printing process is for these. I don't know enough about, even though I am a graphic designer, I've grown up in the age of digital design, so I don't know enough about printing press stuff.
Right.
But there's like weird issues I have with just like lines like overlapping other lines, and I don't know if that is just based on the printing process, because other things are very cleanly done, but then you have something like where the Superman National Comics DC logo at the top, the like Superman part is actually overlapping the lines.
Right.
That's like really weird to me. The N in the Aquaman that's supposed to be under the comics code is like overlapping over the comics code stamp. Like there's weird shit like that where I'm like, what happened? That being said, you can really see, especially in this, like where like someone like Michael Chow really gets inspiration from these classic books.
Yes,
I love sort of that style. This sort of Silver Age where there's like certain details, but a lot of the really clean lines. I love a lot of it. Yeah. I think that.
So the penciler for this was Nick Cardy, and then the inker. Actually, Nick Cardy did all the art, I think.
Yeah.
And Jack Miller is the writer for this one.
Wow, at least we know who to blame. The
two names we talk a lot about, so you know they had a big impact.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad. You know, like these people got to work on comics. They wrote Aquaman. They're like instantly cool in my book, but it is a little bit sad sometimes when like the work doesn't hold up.
Fuck. So you get this front page cover. Came out December. And there's obviously it's a wedding between Aquaman and Mera.
That's right.
With Aqua Boys just off to the side.
Aqualad.
Sorry, whatever. Fucking.
It's Garth.
I apologize. Aquaman and Mera. I pronounce you man and wife. Says the guy who's proceeding over the wedding.
Yeah. Who may or may not be Vulko or like a proto Vulko.
All I know is he has a hardcore skullet.
Yeah, he does.
Mega skullet. Yeah. You see,
he's got old guy hair for sure.
Yeah. Robin's in the background. I like that all of the people who can't breathe underwater all have these like the bubble like
the dive bell kind of thing.
Yeah, very very funny. I'm very even you see little Captain Atom and the like sitting on Superman's shoulder.
The Atom.
Sorry, fucking these guys need to make different names. There's too many Atoms.
It's the Atom.
Yeah.
There's the Golden Age Atom.
Yeah.
There's Atom Smasher.
There's Captain
Atom.
Yeah.
That's not too many.
That's too many.
That's not too many.
Yeah.
There's the Atomic Skull.
We'll talk about this later. I do think it's interesting that they didn't want to take the time to put like a full like giant bubble over Hawkman's head, so they just put it over his mouth because they didn't want to cover his helmet.
Yeah.
Because they're like, how does this even work? I mean, this is ridiculous. I can't make a helmet that big. Let's just put it over his mouth. Everybody else could have that, but
that wouldn't make any sense.
No, let's not do that. And in the corner it says, "It really happens." In this banner, it goes, "It really happens. The marriage of the century. You and the world's greatest superheroes are guests of the kingdom of Atlantis for the wedding of Aquaman." Now, what I think is really interesting is that it starts with "It really happens." Not like it really happened or it's really happening.
Yeah.
It really happens. Like as if like even those filthy sea creatures get married. Like
I don't think that's what they were implying. It's a very funny way to read it.
It really happens.
Can you believe it?
Even they do it.
Even they get married.
Yeah.
Marriage is a thing here.
Yeah. Disgusting. All right.
Interesting.
Let's open the book.
So let's talk about the story. Let's go through the sort of story.
But it's so complex and there's
we're just gonna have to try and get through.
Dig in it.
Yeah.
Much like I'm sure the next Aquaman movie will start.
Yeah.
The current king is dead, and they need a new king of Atlantis.
So this is a funny little thing here. Is that like this issue opens with Aquaman is just an Atlantean because this king dies and they go like, "Oh, the king's dead," and Aquaman goes, "Who did people vote on to be the next king?" Which is also not how a monarchy works.
No,
looking at you, Naboo. But and they're like, "Hey, they picked you," and he's like, "All right."
What I love is,
the comics now he is like a hereditary king.
Yes.
Back then they were just like, actually, they want you.
Yeah. You know a guy who like barely has any contact with our city, that really only shows up very rarely.
He has more business with the surface world than with us.
Doesn't know any of our rules. Doesn't know anything about...
That's true. The rules are a big surprise to him.
Yeah.
It's straight up the plot of the Santa Claus 2.
Yeah. So he shows up. There's a harem of women waiting for him. Well, yes. So when you become king, you immediately need to be married.
Yes. And you must marry an Atlantean.
Even though that actually doesn't really get said, he just infers that, because what happens is they go, you need to get married. Here's a woman for you to choose. And then he goes, this is a lot to decide on. I mean,
I think someone says you must marry an Atlantean girl.
I don't think so.
Or Aqualad says it later or something.
I think
it is said, but maybe it's not said by anyone in authority.
No, I think it was said by him.
Right.
Because I was reading through it and I was going like, what? Like, well, I do love that he goes, what?
But basically, yes. The first instance of women as property is he becomes king, he sits on the throne, and then this old guy goes, so which of these women do you want to bed, my lord?
I do love that they're all dressed like 50s housewives, even though they live underwater.
Well, you know.
It's not like they're all dressed in like sort of like, they don't even match the garb of the guy talking to them. Like they're all literally in like like they've even got aprons on.
Yeah.
Like it's so bad.
It's really bad.
It's so bad. And he's just like, well, how could I choose? But I have no choice.
Yeah.
This thing was just brought into me, and I've based on no information decided that it can only be an Atlantean woman. There's no way for me to decide otherwise, even though I'm sure that this has never come up before, that there was another option.
Well, and also when we eventually get to it, his solution to this problem, the fact that he didn't immediately come up with it is pretty insulting to his intelligence.
100%. So he goes, well, I need to clear my head. And so he, without giving any information to anybody, just bails.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'll be your king. See ya.
Yeah. So Aqualad and Aquaman get to the surface and they realize, oh, what's this? Mera is in trouble, being like harassed by some dude on a giant monster.
Yeah.
Who they just very casually go, she's from another water dimension.
Which has come up earlier.
Yeah.
I think Mira's first appearance is literally 7 issues earlier.
Yeah, because at this point we don't have the 7 Seas. She's in this book, she's from a different dimension.
She's from Dimension Aqua, which later became the Kingdom of Zebel.
Yeah.
But at the time it was called Dimension Aqua, and Zebel was like a guy that lived in Dimension Aqua.
Exactly. So they're being harassed by this monster that kind of just looks like the head of Predator. He's on top of the head of Predator, this giant head of Predator that's attacking them. Yeah. Aquaman goes, I don't know what I'll do. I'll fucking whoop, and get these eels.
Yeah.
Then I'll use them as a chain, but also kind of a lasso, and swing myself into the sky.
He uses them like a slingshot for himself.
Yes.
Just to swing, like to jump over this monster so he can catch up with Mera.
Yes. So he flies over the monster rather than confronting it. I
love your commentary of this.
And Mera has, because she's just a woman and can't handle the amount of stress of this, she just passes out.
Well, yeah, she's also powerless. Yeah. Like she can still breathe underwater.
We don't even know that yet, though.
Oh, do we not? They don't say it yet?
No. Oh, he goes like, use your powers, and she's like, I can't really explain right now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's that's right.
It's too much.
We have to save that for a later page where I didn't have enough story.
My small female mind couldn't possibly figure out a way to, in such small words, figure out how to tell you what's going on. So just like fucking deal with it.
It's so true.
So she passes out from the exhaustion of using her mind. Period, because she's a woman.
Yeah.
He then, Aqualad and Aquaman, even though he has an entire kingdom now, takes her to some dingy cave.
Which is like his secret base, his underwater cave. Because it says they go to Aquaman's underwater cave.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't look
even though he's the king.
Yeah. And has access to an entire kingdom now.
And like medical facilities.
Medical professionals in general.
Yeah.
Who could probably help with this.
Let's take her to the cave.
Let's take her to my secret cave.
Yeah. Aqualad, hang a sock on the door.
Yeah. I mean, she is unconscious and a woman.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
So then she wakes up.
I will say the story doesn't go there, thank goodness.
Thank God. But, I mean, it's implied. She opens her eyes with the most fuck-me eyes you've ever seen in your entire life.
Really?
If that's not Nala, I don't know what is.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So
I think I need to read this issue.
hey, no, you're gonna chum. Can't do that. So, and she goes, Aquaman, I knew you would save me somehow. Not from the fact that he's a hero and you saw him before passing out.
Yeah.
Somehow she knew, even though that's what he does.
Yeah, I think she's implying that before he showed up to save her, she knew that he would come and save her.
Yeah.
I think I think they're implying something slightly more nuanced there.
She then explains that she's lost her powers.
Yes.
And then goes into tell a story that there's been a portal that she's been able to sort of like access whenever to get to Earth.
You have to use magic to open this portal between Dimension Aqua and
but
Earth.
Because of using it too much, it basically is like now only got one more opening left.
So she decides she's going to leave her home to be with Aquaman.
But
and then this creep show follows her out.
Yeah.
The guy that was previously chasing her.
And in doing so, she lost her powers.
Yeah, he shoots her with some sort of power permanent disband ray.
Yeah, a power dampener.
He shoots her with a power dampener.
Yeah.
His name is Cisco.
And this dude's like...
his name is Oceanus.
It is I, Oceanus. You know the way that you like talk to people that you see all the time? You go, it is I.
Yeah, that's that's how I always introduce myself.
Oceanus. And I've loved you forever. So
I'm going to take your powers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to terrorize you with this monster.
Yeah, I'm going to... I mean, God.
Oh, no. That's not what I meant. Although it's an interesting allegory for this issue in general.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to remove any power that you have.
Yeah, you have no agency.
Yeah.
And then also check out this thing.
Check out my monster. It's going to terrorize you.
Do you want to be with me yet?
Yeah. I don't understand why you don't feel the same way.
Yeah. And then later when he puts his monster away and he was like, see, I'm a good guy.
So she runs away from him, and then now we flash forward to where we're at now, inside his sex dungeon, and she goes, as long as I'm with you, that's all that matters.
And then Aquaman, without context, says, I can't marry you, and she gets upset and leaves, of course.
Well, before that, though, Aqualad thinks to himself, suffering sardines. To himself, he thinks suffering sardines.
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, when he chums so much, the sardines really are suffering.
They probably don't have succotash down there, so they just have sardines.
Yeah, with so much chum in the water, the sardines really are suffering.
Coming out of the chum dungeon.
So they're still inside the chum pit, and literally without any reasoning at all.
Without context or explanation.
He goes, BT dubs, I can never marry you.
And she goes, I just left my home. She's reasonably upset here. This is the most honest reaction, I think, of the whole issue.
She goes, without any context, I came here without telling you that this was going to happen. And that I'm now putting it on you that you should have foreseen this. Yeah. And I'm upset. And before either of them can have any real conversation, she rushes away because she's too upset to have a conversation.
And Aqualad goes, actually, and she goes, shut the fuck up, I'm leaving. Yes. And she leaves.
But she also goes, don't say anymore. I never want to see you again. I hate you. Yeah. Just on a literally a man she was willing to like give up her entire world, her abilities. But without any context, he goes, I can't marry you. And she goes, well, then I don't want to live in this world anymore. Yeah,
exactly. And then she goes and meets up with Oceanus again.
Yes. Well, first, she ends up on an island. Oceanus has this... A new monster for her.
He's got a monster.
His monster wraps itself around her.
He presents his monster to her in a very non-consensual fashion.
Well, yeah. So this octopusy monster thing is grabbing her, and he goes like, he's like, I could finish you off, but if I wanted to. And she goes, I don't care. I don't even care about living anymore. And he goes, oh well, fuck.
And then
I love you though.
He's making these monsters out of water. He's using like the hard water powers that Mera used to have, that all of the Dimension Aqua people have.
Though it's funny, guy, because he goes, well, fuck, if you're gonna fucking.
So then he makes the monster he created disappear with his own powers. The thing that he also made with his own powers, and then he turns to her and he goes, "See, I made the monster go away. Aren't I a nice guy?" And she goes, Sure.
I mean, you sure are nicer than Aquaman.
And then he literally thinks to himself, it's working.
Yes. Literally says it's working.
He's essentially negging her.
Yeah. She's beginning to trust me like an idiot woman. And so he goes, look, we're going to be together. There's actually a kingdom here. Even though she knows who Aquaman is, they clearly have a relationship enough that she loves him, but has never heard of Atlantis before.
I guess Atlantis hasn't really come up or something. Also, it's funny where he's like, his whole thing is he just wants to rule this world with Mera, which fine. And he says, there's a kingdom here. And then I don't know if it's immediately what comes next, but he goes to Atlantis. He just gets right in. There's no security.
Yeah.
He just shows up and he says, I'm a king now. And they go, no, actually, we have a king. And he goes, hey, dust off these chairs. Your queen's coming. And they're like, no, we have a king. And he goes, whoop, whoop, whoop. I made a bunch of little stupid fish head torpedo guys. And they go, well, sorry, you're the king.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, our king's not here, so...
yeah, because our king immediately left.
Yeah.
We coronated him, and he left.
Yeah, and, I mean, you put up any amount of effort, and, I mean, we're a kingdom, but we clearly have no way to defend ourselves. So...
Oh, yeah.
That's, I mean, what other choice do we have? But he goes... So somehow, even though he has been well known enough to be voted in to be the king, he has also never brought this up to Mera.
Yeah.
And so she knows nothing of this.
Right.
And so she goes, well, I don't believe that there's a possibility of there being an underwater kingdom, even though I know this guy who's got all these water powers.
But sure enough, there is. And Oceanus takes over, and Mera sits by his side. And when Aquaman goes to stop them, well, he's swimming with Aqualad and these torpedo stupid fish guys.
Well, yeah, he's trying to find Mera and then gets torpedo powered, and without putting up any like a very small amount of power, immediately gets subjugated.
Yes, yeah.
They get wrapped with like these weird
like energy beam.
Yeah.
Well, it's the hard water constructs again, but yeah, made to be these sort of constricting bonds.
Exactly. And immediately gets put before the now king Oceanus and Queen Mera.
Yeah. And Mera essentially is like weirdly evil here.
Oh, she's
instantly just like, oh, like fine, execute him.
Well, she's just Aquaman goes like, hey, like I know. Oh no, the fucking balding dude shows up and goes like, hey, like, you know Aquaman. I mean, I know that we don't have a relationship because you clearly don't even know that I exist. But like, I know that you somehow exist because he talks about you, but clearly you don't. He doesn't. But we'll deal with that later.
It's fine.
Clearly doesn't talk about us, but it's fine. But I mean, it's Aquaman and Aqualad. You got to save them. I mean, that's. I mean, you know them.
And then Aquaman is like, "Surely, Mera, you will help us." And she goes, "Will I?"
Yeah. She goes, "Oh, must I?"
Yeah.
Why should I help you? If you, she goes, "Why should I help the man who made a fool of me?" Even though, I mean, this was the things that happened, like without any information to each other, but because she just assumed that he's in a bunch of trouble, and she goes, I don't care what happens to either of them. Now, Aqualad's just getting pulled into this.
Yeah, Aqualad's, hey, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, I didn't fucking not marry you. Like, I've just been hanging out here. And she's just like, you're always a part of it.
You know what you did.
Yeah. And even the dude's like, well, I'm convinced, like, you really love me now because you don't give a shit about this dude anymore.
Yeah, Oceanus is a real chump.
And Mera just goes, I know what. Let's really make them fucking suffer.
Yeah.
They're going to be our slaves.
Which could potentially be, Mera is playing him. And so
which I thought.
Executing them. But I don't think this story is smart enough to be that.
They give no reason to think that because literally I watched it and I thought the same thing. I was reading it and I was like, wow.
I was like, she's playing them. Let's not kill them. Let's humiliate them. Very smart.
Yeah, very, very smart. Immediately with no things that are like keeping them to actually work. Like there's nothing that's there's no chains on them or anything. They just immediately start cleaning the floor.
Yeah, Aquaman and Aqualad just go along with it. They all of Atlantis becomes a slave labor camp. They start building this massive temple to Mera and Oceanus. But then at one point there are chains on Aquaman and Aqualad.
Oh, yes.
And he has to contact sawfishes to cut them off.
Yes.
And then they just show up And
well, they get the octopuses to basically octopi to tear down the monuments.
They tear down the monument to distract the guards, like the monster guards, and then they go to kill Oceanus in his sleep.
Yeah, they literally
they say
him.
They say we're going to kidnap him before he wakes up and get him away from the water he controls. So they're going to take him from Atlantis and somehow get him to the Sahara.
Yes,
before he wakes up.
Even though they've clearly
great plan, couldn't fail.
And there ends up being a statue already inside.
Well, it's like a hard water one. It's a decoy body, and then Oceanus is like, well, now you're really fucked. I'm actually going to kill you this time. And then...
Well, hold on.
Sure.
Because they clearly have... If they're built enough to build a monument and these statues and this new building for them, this has been going on for months.
Yeah.
Months. And so
we get a literal montage of Aquaman and Aqualad being willing slaves to this despot king.
Yes, they give no they give no context that that because they got broken out that an alarm warned Oceanus. So somehow has he already been watching them this whole time for
or he's
months?
That paranoid that he never sleeps in his own bed.
That's the only thing I
think
of.
That's what it is.
I think that might be what it is too. So they show up and he's got this weird ape fish thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, who then goes to attack, and they're gonna be like, okay, now I'm just gonna fucking murk you.
Yeah,
look, you're gonna die.
He says something stupid like, "I've had enough of your tricking me."
Yeah, which I'm like, at what other point did they trick you?
It's like you've had the jump on them the whole time.
Yeah, literally,
they literally have never tricked you.
This isn't even really them tricking you as much as them just showing up and killing you. There was no ruse.
Yeah, he's like, I'm tired of your tricks.
It's not like they're like, we love being your slave. Why don't you come into this room? And then they try to murder him. Literally, they just came to kill him, and that was enough of a trick for him.
I don't like this trick.
Yeah, this is...
It's like he learned the word trick, but not what it means.
No.
Yeah. Is this a trick? This is a trick, isn't it?
Yeah, something bad happened. It's got to be a trick.
Would you like lunch? Is this a trick?
Yeah.
This trick is pretty good.
Yeah.
Can I have another trick, please?
Yeah, this is a delicious trick. No, tricks are for kids. There we go. And Mera doesn't want them to die. She just wants them to suffer.
She wants the subjugation of their entire people.
Yes, but death is too far.
Yeah.
God, if we put them out of their misery, how terrible would that be? So she then... She takes the gun out of Oceanus' hand.
I just overlooked a lot of the silliness when I reread this, but as you're pointing it out, this is a pretty bad issue.
All I'm thinking of.
Pretty bad.
So she then grabs the gun from him and goes like, I'll take this. And he's like, Mera, what does this mean? And he's like, what do you fucking think this means, you idiot?
Is this a trick?
Why am I so constantly tricked?
Oh no, a trick.
And she goes, it means I'm still in love with Aquaman. I'm just somehow figuring out that because I don't want him to die, I must love him.
Yeah, those are the only two options.
Yeah. It's either love or
hate.
They've got to die.
If you don't want him to die,
then you
must
want to
marry him.
Yeah, exactly. And if you love someone, there's no choice. You have to marry them. If you don't want them to die, you have to marry them.
Oh yeah, that's the only way.
So, but he goes, but by firing it and removing my powers, you still won't be saving their lives. Which I guess because that monster's still going after them?
Which I don't fully buy because it sort of implies that he's made the monster and it cannot be unmade except by him using his powers again, as opposed to the monster existing because he's continuously using his powers. Which I don't buy.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. I
think that's him using a trick.
Oh, I tricked. And so so he goes, "Hey, let me go." And I'll spare them.
Yeah.
I'll uncreate this monster.
And
that can only exist. That can exist no matter what.
And she does let him go. And he does get rid of the monster. Like a weirdly, they both keep their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. And he just swims away.
Trick,
he's like,
finished.
Did I just,
I tricked.
Did I just make a hostile takeover, like a coup d'etat of this sovereign nation? I'm just going to leave now.
Yeah.
See ya.
And I did what I said. Just like you would in a trick. And now, after this insane woman's finally calmed down enough that they can fully explain why he can't marry her, She then,
Oh yeah, this is the time to explain it.
yeah,
Now that all of that nation are slaves.
yes. So she goes, oh, well, now I understand. You just need to explain the law. That a law that,
Yeah.
again,
Sorry about the slavery. I get it now.
it's not, now we know that this thing is a law and only an Atlantean girl can marry you.
And it's only at this point that Aquaman goes, wait a minute. I'm the king. I'm the law. And he's like, oh, why don't, Mera helped us out. Why don't we make her an honorary Atlantean? And then he just does. And then he goes,
well, actually, it
so he
wasn't
doesn't
even him. It was Aqualad.
Aqualad is the only one with his head on his
Aqualad's
shoulders.
just like, well, after what she did, I'm sure that we could like just make her an Atlantean.
And then Aquaman's like, I'm the king. I could do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't even change the law, which he could also do as king.
Because he's the king.
Yeah.
He goes, that's a terrific idea. I have the power to do it. You're an Atlantean.
Married now?
Instead of like, because you could bring it up to a vote, because apparently that's what you do in a monarchy. No, he decides that he can do it. He goes, I didn't want to be king, but I guess now that it works for my benefit, I'll hang out here.
Like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, now that I can get what I want.
And so he makes her an honorary Atlantean. He says, will you marry me? And she goes, of course, why wouldn't I? This was a normal
I love you.
day.
I have no other option.
This was a totally fine day.
Yeah, this is great.
And then the final panel is the wedding.
Yes. And you get a conversation between Martian Manhunter and Superman.
Calls him by his last name. He's like, this is a great wedding, isn't it, Johns? Like they're like frat bros. Like, hey, Johns! And then Martian Manhunter is like, yes, this is great.
Superman. He goes, they sure do, Superman. And at the top they said, and so, before long, the most gala wedding of all time takes place in Atlantis. Even in Atlantis.
Even here.
An event that brings
in Atlantis Ego. Yeah.
The most sensational guest of all time. It's really anyone that's not a filthy Atlantean.
The most sensational guests mean, remember the books you'd rather be reading? Well, those characters are here.
So you better read this if you want to see more of them. And they're at the front and the back, so you better read through to get to it.
That's right. Yeah.
Because even these filthy fucking chum-filled fish people to get married to.
Even they have love.
God knows how. It's only for each other because yuck.
Yeah. So technically, the wedding issue is mostly about how this issue...
Female subjugation.
It's mostly about female subjugation. How women can't be trusted to make their own decisions. How they're objects.
And how they can make rash decisions just based on emotions.
Yeah.
And that housewives are the only females that are living in Atlantis.
Yeah, well, they're the only unclaimed females in Atlantis, I guess.
Yes, which is why they've been propped up like wives. So you could see, because Aquaman's so fucking stupid, he couldn't possibly imagine what they could look like as a wife.
Yeah, but I'm a king.
Yes.
If they were my wife, would they be a king? Is this a trick?
Is that Mrs. King now? No, that's not a trick. No, you had to know what was happening for it to be a trick.
Yeah. It's funny, when I read this, I gloss over a lot of the sort of sexist shit because I just take it for granted.
Because it's Super 8 comics.
Oh, this is silly. It's like poorly written. You're just jumping around and stuff like that. And I gloss over it. And then hearing you go through it, it's like, wow, this is like even worse.
Oh, yeah. This is the worst book I've ever read.
You're right. I don't disagree. But I was just like, I just take that for granted with these comics. But to actually enumerate each of the issues with it is like, oh, Jesus.
I mean, I've never read any of the super racist stuff yet. So as far as I've known, this is the worst book I've ever read.
Right. In terms of problematic.
Yeah.
Right.
And quality. The art's really one of the better pieces.
The art is serviceable.
Yeah.
It's not like outstanding. It's not groundbreaking, but it's good. There's good visual storytelling.
Yeah.
The story, like the writing, is bad.
One of the worst books.
It's pretty bad. I mean, there's a reason that Aquaman was not top tier.
you can get why people made fun of him for so long.
Even when he uses his power to summon eels and that, he doesn't like electric shock the monster. He makes them slingshot him just to the other side of the monster.
Yes.
It's not even to slingshot him into the monster.
It's not like, hey, we know what eels can do. It's like, no, they're just fucking rope in the water.
Exactly. He's not using any of them with their strength.
They're long and skinny. Just fucking rope in the water.
It's so true. It's so true. The reason that I picked this, though, is that I knew...
Because it's so romantic.
I always knew the Arthur and Mera wedding issue is just the final panel. Like, the wedding is just the last panel.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. This is a wedding issue.
Yeah, well, this is the Valentine special. And guess what? It's also a trick.
Oh, now I can see it's full circle. This is really the trick issue.
Yeah, this is the trick issue.
It's not like
you suckers.
It's not like the Green Arrow one we read last year.
No, that Green Arrow Black Canary wedding special is all about their wedding.
Yeah.
We see the bachelor party, the bachelorette party. We see the wedding day. We see the wedding night. It's
because they weren't trying to teach you what a trick was. So.
Yeah, this Aquaman one is...
It actually came out April Fool's.
I think this best exemplifies what was bad about the comics in the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit about story? We just need to fill pages.
Yes. Literally just trying to finish the book.
Yeah. And not understanding what the important part was. Which is the wedding.
Yes. The thing you sold the book on.
Just do this one issue later.
Yeah. Like, oh, now they clearly love each other. Let's bring that love to a book.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, oh yeah, I think I know you.
Because again, Mera only showed up 7 issues earlier. Her first appearance is in Aquaman 11.
She basically...
This is Aquaman 18.
They know so little of each other. I could hear, literally, she could just be like, Aquaman, if that's even your real name. Like...
Yeah, well, really.
Yeah, like they have literally no information about each other's lives. He knows that she's from another dimension, and she knows he's got water powers, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
She was like, wow, he's the only one that could possibly exist in the water.
And, by the way, at the end of this issue, Mera doesn't get her powers back.
No.
Now Mera is a powerless woman married to the important man of the story.
It's the dream life. It's the American life.
Pretty problematic when you put it that way.
I mean, but she's got everything she could ever wanted. She was married.
So if you're listening to this Valentine's special, because it's Valentine's Day and you're by yourself, just keep in mind, all you have to do is wait and stumble your way through fucking up everything about a relationship, and eventually she'll come around and marry you anyway.
When there's no other option.
When there's no other option, and after your entire nation are slaves.
And you can basically do no option as long as you've got a friend with a few ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Aquaman, aren't you in charge of all the laws?
Shut the fuck up.
Hey!
Oh, yeah.
I guess I am.
So I can make her king.
It'd be funny if that's what he did. If I make you king, you can change the law. We could get married.
I'm a genius.
Aquaman.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so how many capes?
Oh god. Negative 1 million capes.
That bad?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my god, there's so much worse out there.
This is so bad.
Okay. I would give this like 1.5 or 2 capes.
Wow.
I'm assuming that
it's because it taught you about tricks.
Well, that's how I learned about tricks.
Yeah.
It's how I learned that in a monarchy you vote for the king.
Yeah.
It's it's how I learned that if you are a bad guy and then you stop being bad for a short amount of time, you're a good guy.
That's right. You're only bad if no one else is worse than you.
Yeah. If you stop harassing someone for a little bit, you're the hero.
Yeah. The only way to get what you want is by harassing them and then saying you won't harass them if they give you what you want.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, this really doesn't hold up so well. Happy Valentine's Day. Would you recommend this even from like an academic perspective? You say like, this is what comics were, and good God, it's a good thing they aren't anymore.
This is the
Would
thing.
you ever recommend anyone read this for any reason ever?
Yeah, if I was trying to trick them. This would be a lesson I would use for my future daughter.
I wouldn't.
I know, by reading it to them and explaining why these
Everything
things are
about
bad.
this is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I see. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a good teaching tool.
Yeah, my God. That's Aquaman number 18
Yeah.
from 1966 or something. Written by Jack someone. And
Yeah.
drawn by Nick someone.
Yeah, drawn by someone who cares.
No, I'm actually going to say their names again because I'm going to feel bad if I don't.
Oh, really? Why? Because this person wrote terrible things and you really want to give them credit for it? Or no, you need to be able to show people so they can go find their family members with pitchforks.
Yeah, that's right. Just so you know who to go after.
Yeah.
We're talking about Aquaman 18.
It's not even written on the front of the book because it's...
Well, no, I don't think it would be. But it's Jack Miller and Nick Cardy. The editor was George Cashton, so it all got approved by him.
Yep. So
And it's also a Comics Code approved, so you know it's good for kids.
yeah. So go after them, and when they ask what you're doing, you say it's just a trick.
That's right. Happy Valentine's Day. Don't do anything from this book.
Yeah. Please don't do as this book did.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Adios.
Leave the tricks for kids. Ciao.
They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.